The poem I will be doing my presentation about is Love in a Life by Robert Browning. So let's talk about the poet first of all. So his wife, Elizabeth, suffered from illness most of her life. Her health was therefore a constant source of worry and the reason as to why the pair moved to Italy with the hopes of restoring her health. The poem was written during their time in Italy in 1855. Unfortunately, however, Elizabeth died not long after the poem was written. This is very sad because the Browning's efforts to cling on to her were in vain, and this is something that is mirrored in the speaker of the poem. So the deeper meaning. The poem is a metaphor for how the presence of the poet's wife on him and his life enriches him immeasurably. She is a symbol of love, and through her disappearance, the speaker becomes mad and lost in his mansion, searching frantically for her as though his life depended on him finding her. This displays the overall message, which is that without love in our lives, we are lost souls, we are not truly alive. And this is seen in the speaker, who is just searching around his mansion mindlessly. He's not really present. He's just being driven by this inner force, which is pushing him towards clinging on to his love, because this is the only thing he has. So this is the first stanza of the 2-stanza long poem. Room after room I hunt the house through, we inhabit together. Heart, fear nothing, for heart thou shalt find her. Next time herself, not the trouble behind her. Left in the curtain the couch's perfume. As she brushed it, the cornice wreath bloomed anew. Yon looking glass gleamed at the wave of her feather. So in the first line we have repetition of room after room. And what this does is it creates a sense of endlessness and indicates that the speaker is on a futile journey, and that he is only going round and around in circles, but in this case through the rooms of his house. The house is presented as a maze, twisting and turning through the use of the enjambment, which shows the continuous struggle of the speaker, as well as mirroring him moving through each room. And then in the fourth line we have caesura, and what this does is it fractures the line, and the dash at the end of this line also adds to the confusion created by the caesura. This chaotic punctuation reflects the speaker's fractured state of mind due to the disappearance of his love. And this relates to the deeper meaning, which is that without love, one is lost. And then we have the phrases, thou shalt find her, trouble behind her. These two phrases end on a weaker beat, and this is known as trochaic reversals. And the effect of this is that the confidence of the speaker's words are undermined, and suggests that his efforts to find his seemingly invisible wife are going to be in vain. This creates doubt in the readers, and we feel sorry for the speaker because he is only assuring himself, he's lying to himself even, when he says that he will find her, but we know that this is something he won't actually achieve. He even encourages himself to fear nothing, as seen in the fourth line. And this again gives us an indication that he is assuring himself rather than stating the truth and solid fact. This is also seen in the modal verb shalt. This is what makes the poem so very sad, because he is refusing to give up on his love, but she is too far gone for him to keep fighting for. So he's just searching around his house, his huge mansion, mindlessly and for no reason, because she is too far gone. And then we have the personification of heart, which makes it seem as though his heart was something separate from himself. And this creates the impression that his emotions and his body are not properly under his control, and he is being driven by an inner desperate force, as I said before, which is pushing him towards his love, who seems to be unreachable. The use of the verb hunt in the second line is quite discordant with the situation being described, which is of a man searching through his house for his wife. A more appropriate word would have been searching for or looking for, but the poet chooses hunt to show that the speaker is walking on a thin line between reason and insanity. And then we have the use of the word inhabit, which again is quite unharmonious and slightly off kilter. He could have used live together, dwell together, but he chose inhabit instead, which is slightly more discomforting, and this is effective in making us see that something isn't quite right in this house, and that deep down, even though the speaker assures himself he is really suffering, perhaps from premature grief, as we get the sense that the analogy of the speaker searching frantically for his wife in all of these rooms is actually a reference to him trying to pull her away from the arms of death. And then we have the guttural alliteration used of curtain, couch, cornice, glass, and what this does is it hints at death and at something malign and dark hidden in the shadows. And then we also have alliteration of the H sound, which mirrors the sound of the speaker's panting as he searches from room to room, and his heart rate increases as he is unable to find her. We then have the use of imagery of the curtain, which is a Gothic-like element. It seems as though the speaker's wife was just in the room and had left the curtain swaying by passing by it hastily. And what this does is it creates a sense of frustration to the speaker. He senses his wife's proximity. She is right there, a few steps away from him, yet he is unable to reach her. And then we also have sensory imagery of Couch's perfume, which this creates the impression of something hovering on the edge of perception, never quite materializing into view, which is how the wife is presented. She's almost ghost-like. The speaker's wife seems to be the one who brings the house alive, and this is seen in Bloomed Anew. We see the wife as a divine, heavenly creature in the eyes of the speaker, as she is able to animate the things around her. And then we have at the end, the last word of the last line in this stanza, feather, refers to flight and moving away, which is what the speaker's wife is doing. She is flying away from him and towards death. Okay, and now we have the second and final stanza. Yet the day wears, and door succeeds door. I try the fresh fortune, range the wide house from the wing to the centre. Still the same chance, she goes out as I enter. Spent my whole day in the quest, who cares? But 'tis twilight, you see, with such suits to explore, such closets to search, such alcoves to importune. The spatial form of both stanzas mirrors the shape of the house. So we have three short lines which quickly switches towards the last few longer lines, and this seems to alter the dimensions of the house and creates the sense as though the house is expanding at the same time that the speaker is running. So he isn't really getting anywhere, and this is incredibly frustrating. He's just going round and around in circles, and again hints at the fact that he is becoming obsessed and mad. And then door succeeds door. This reiterates room after room and links to the first stanza. The fact that these two link shows that this is a continuous recurring cycle of him chasing after his love, unprepared to face the difficult truth, which is that she is too far gone. And then we have the rhetorical question, who cares? And what this does is it marks the moment in which the speaker rejects all rationality and he becomes completely consumed with his obsession to find his wife. He doesn't care if he's going to spend his whole day on this quest. He doesn't care how long he's going to have to search for her. He is so determined to find his love. This is the only thing he has to live for. The speaker seems to believe that he is only a step away from finding her. This is seen when he says, "She goes out as I enter." It seems as though the house has him convinced that if he moves only a little faster, he'll reach her. So it seems as though the house is sort of manipulating him. It's almost personified, even though there's not a clear personification used of the house. But it does seem as though it is an extra character in this poem. The hunt has now turned into a quest, and this alludes to other doomed literary quests, and again gives the readers the indication that the speaker's efforts, his so-called quest, is going to end in failure, which was also seen in the first stanza. And then we have twilight, which indicates that the night and darkness is setting in. This is a metaphor for death and hints once again at the fact that the speaker is losing his wife to some sort of sickness and she is about to leave him for death. He is so desperately trying to cling on to her due to his fear of being alone and without love. The rooms have multiplied now into suites, closets, and alcoves. He's fallen into an ever-increasing vastness, it seems. What this does is makes us picture a man lost in the maze-like twisting corridors of his ever-expanding mansion. And the repetition of such helps to emphasize this endless expansion and thus the infinite number of places the speaker must search for his wife. Importune means to beg, and what it does is it personifies the house. As I said before, the house seems to be an extra character in this poem. So he's begging the house to reveal his loved one. And this makes the house seem as though it has some sort of macabre power over the speaker, as it is luring him into the maze of corridors, pushing him over the edge of obsession, and leaving him pleading on his knees. It seems to be very cruel. Throughout the poem, there is rhyme, however, it is not in a fixed pattern. So this uncomfortable rhyme scheme of the poem emphasizes the growing anxiety of the speaker and the chaos of his emotion. So overall, the house becomes a symbol of madness, obsession, and the fear of loneliness. It is not clear if the wife is actually there. She may simply be a figment of his imagination. But what we do know, however, despite the poem being quite ambiguous, is that he is either losing her or has already lost her. And because of this loss or future loss, he is losing his mind. Okay, so now what I've done is I've arranged a few topic areas which I would focus on if this poem came up in the exam. So, topic 1. I would focus on how the speaker assures himself and tells himself that he will find his wife, even when it is clear to us that he has lost her and his efforts are going to be in vain. The second topic area I would focus on is that the house seems to be the speaker's antagonist. It is the source of his madness and frustration, as it hides his love away from him. And the last topic area is it becomes clear that the speaker is losing his wife to death, and the closer she is to it, the more desperate he is to cling on to her. Right, that's it. Thank you very much for watching.